Namaskar everyone. I hope you all are doing well and ready to explore the geographical knowledge in Skanda Purana. Today's lecture explores the Skanda Purana, one of the largest and oldest Puranas in Hindu literature. We will understand it through the lens of geographical knowledge. The Skanda Purana is a treasure trove of ancient Indian cosmology, sacred geography, environmental knowledge, and pilgrimage mapping as well. We will examine how it offers a window into the cultural and spiritual geography of ancient India. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to explore the historical context and significance of this Skanda Purana in the development of geographical knowledge in ancient India. You will also be able to understand how Skanda Purana contributes to the conceptualization of landscapes, sacred geography, and urban spaces in Indian tradition. By the end of this lecture, you will have a comprehensive understanding of how it influences the way we view and interact with landscapes today. Now we will try to understand this Skanda Purana as a source of geographical knowledge. The Skanda Purana, one of the largest and most significant Mahapuranas in Hindu literature, is not only a religious and mythological text but also a rich repository of geographical knowledge from ancient India. It is composed over several centuries, almost between 7th to 15th century CE. It reflects a deeply interconnected worldview where geography, cosmology, pilgrimage, and dharma are seamlessly interwoven. The text offers valuable insights into India's sacred landscapes, regional identities, rivers, mountains, forests, and the conceptualization of space from a dharmic lens. The Skanda Purana lays out detailed Tirtha Mahatamya, or you can say the glorification of pilgrimage places. It describes the sanctity and spiritual significance of various geographical locales. These descriptions serve as both religious guides and historical records of movement and spatial imagination. Places like Kasi, or you can say the Varanasi, Prayag, Allahabad, Avantika, or you can say the Ujjain and Kedar are mentioned with elaborate descriptions of their locations, natural features, and associated deities. The text presents complex circuits of pilgrimage, such as the Panchakroshi Yatra around Varanasi, with spatial references to distances, directions, and sacred stops, reflecting a functional understanding of topography. The Skanda Purana also presents a spiritually charged landscape where geographical features are defined and personified. Rivers like the Ganga, Yamuna, Godavari, and Narmada are described not only as physical entities but as divine mothers with purificatory powers. Mountains such as the Himalayas, Vindhyas, and Malay Range are revered as the adobes of gods and sages. Their slopes, caves, and forests are frequently described in narratives. The Himalaya, in particular, are described in detail, including sacred peaks, hermitages, and river origins, helping to shape early geographical consciousness of northern India. The Puranic worldview does not separate geography from cosmology. The Skanda Purana uses concepts like the Jambudvipa or central landmass of the earth, Meru or cosmic mountain, and concentric continents or Dvipas, and oceans or samudras to construct a cosmological geography. Cardinal directions or disha are associated with deities and moral qualities. This reflects how ancient Indians oriented themselves not only spatially but also spiritually. Different regional sections of this Skand Purana, such as the Kasi Khand, Avantya Khand, and Prabhasa Khand, provide localized geographical descriptions. So, if we start with the example of Kashi Khand, it gives an elaborate layout of Varanasi, geography of Varanasi, its roads, riverbanks, ghats, shrines, and sacred groves. It provides a model of urban sacred geography. This takes preserve regional names, linguistic traits, flora, fauna, and even cultural customs. That's why it serves as ethnogeographical records as well. The Skand Purana often describes ideal sites for meditation, ritual, and even settlement. It emphasizes living near clean water bodies, forests, or mountains are good, and avoiding impure places or those infested with negative energies. So, descriptions of sacred groves or one, lotus ponds, temple tanks, and wildlife corridors reveal an eco conscious spatial understanding. Unlike modern cartographic tools, the Skand Purana narrates space through myths, dialogues, and travel stories. It traces routes, names of places, and directions. The journey of deities, sages, and devotees are mapped through natural features and cultural landmarks. The oral nature of these stories served as cognitive maps for pilgrims and devotees in pre modern times. So, the Skand Purana, with its vast and vivid descriptions of India's sacred and natural landscapes, serves as a unique geographical document from ancient India. It provides a window into how space was perceived, experienced, and sanctified. It also acts as a holistic integration of nature, culture, and even spirituality. It is like an early environmental ethic rooted in reverence rather than exploitation. For geographers, historians, and scholars of Indian knowledge systems, the Skand Purana is not just a religious text, it is a sophisticated map of a civilization's relationship with its land, cosmos, and moral order. Now let's understand the significance of Skand Purana in understanding of geographical knowledge with a short story. Long ago, in a village at the foot of the sacred Meru mountain, the villagers believed that the mountain was the center of the universe, linking heaven and earth. A young scholar named Raghav, eager to understand the mysteries of this mountain, turned to the Skanda Purana, an ancient text filled with stories of God and geography. As he read, Raghav discovered that the Skanda Purana not only described landscapes but also their spiritual significance. The text revealed how each mountains, river, and forest reflected the cosmic order, making geography a sacred map of the universe. Now, Raghav returned to his village with new-found wisdom, teaching that the landscape around them, like Meru and the rivers flowing from it, were not just physical features but sacred embodiments of cosmic truth. The Skand Purana had shown him that geography was deeply connected to both nature and the divine. So, the Skand Purana is one of the largest Mahapuranas, presents a rich tapestry of sacred geography where physical landscapes are interwoven with divine narratives and spiritual significance. It meticulously describes tirthas or pilgrimage sites, rivers, and mountains as manifestation of cosmic order, or you can say the dharmas, linking them to myths, rituals, and even ecological reverence. For instance, it glorifies the Kashi, Khand, or Varanasi as the cosmic axis where Shiva's lingam pierces the earth, while the Himalayas are depicted as abodes of ascetic power. The Purana also encodes hydrological wisdom, portraying rivers like the Ganga and Yamuna as goddesses whose confluences or sangams purify sins. Sacred groups or one and temple towns, for example, Puri and Rameshwaram, are mapped as nodes in a spiritual network, reinforcing the idea that geography is not just terrestrial but theogeographical, a bridge between the mortal and divine. This vision continues to shape pilgrimage routes, environmental conservation, for example, Narmada Parikrama, and India's cultural identity even today. The Skand Purana, one of the largest and oldest Mahapuranas, is a treasure trove of sacred geography offering detailed descriptions of India's river and mountains not just as physical features but as divine entities essential to spiritual life. The text glorifies rivers as embodiments of divine energy and as purifiers of sins. It extensively describes the sanctity of River Ganga, which is revered as the holiest river. The Skand Purana elaborates on her descent from the heavens, her power to cleanse sins, and her presence at Kasi, one of the most sacred cities. And यम इससे प्रॉब्लम होगा? एक मिनट में, हाँ हाँ हाँ, एक मिनट, मैं इसको बंद करना भूल गई. यहाँ से शुरू करती हूँ. River Ganga, which is revered as the holiest river, the Skand Purana elaborates on her descent from the heavens, her power to cleanse sins, and her presence at Kasi, one of the most sacred cities. Yamuna River is also celebrated for its spiritual purity and its association with Krishna and other deities. River Saraswati, although invisible today, the Skand Purana refers to her as flowing in both the material and spiritual planes. Narmada, Godavari, and Kaveri rivers are praised for their association with tirthas, sacred pilgrimage sites. And it is also embedded in the rituals and festivals described in the text. Mountains are described as abodes of gods and as pivotal to spiritual geography. Mount Meru, often referred to in cosmological context, symbolizing the axis of the universe. Himalayas, extolled as the dwelling place of Shiva and Parvati, particularly Kedarnath and Kailasa, are highlighted. Vindhyas and Sahyadri ranges are also connected with various pilgrimage circuits and are described in terms of their flora, fauna, and spiritual significance. In Skand Purana, rivers symbolize the flow of divine grace and life, while mountains represent spiritual ascent, stability, and the bridge between heaven and earth. Each river and mountain is embedded in a narrative that combines mythology with actual geography, making the landscape of India a living map of sacred experiences. Let's Understand the pilgrimage routes and spatial narratives connected to it. The Skand Purana, a vast and intricate Mahapurana, is deeply rooted in the Indian tradition of sacred geography. It is not merely a religious text, but a spiritual map that charts out sacred spaces across the Indian subcontinent. It also weaves together physical geography with divine presence through pilgrimage routes and spatial narratives. This text envisions Bharatvarsh as the land suffused with tirthas or sacred forts, each tied to mythological events, divine presence, or cosmic alignments. This text serves as an itinerarium, or you can say the guidebook for pilgrims, laying down sequential tirtha yatra or pilgrimage circuits with detailed routes. It also acts as a guidance on rituals to be performed at each site and the spiritual benefits, or you can say the punya, of visiting these locations. For example, the Kashi Mahatmya, perhaps the most celebrated part of Skand Purana, it lays out the sacred microgeography of Kashi. Each ghat, temple, and lane is described in a spatial order, transforming the city into a living mandal. And if we talk about the Ujjain route, that is Avanti Kshetra, the text highlights Ujjain as a cosmic center aligned with planetary deities or Jyotirlingas and astrologically significant meridians. Now talk about Kedar and Himalayan yatras. The mountainous pilgrimages, including to Kedarnath, are outlined with references to terrain, rivers, and the hardships that mirror spiritual purification. And Dakshinapath, or southern pilgrimage route in Skand Purana, extends sacred geography southward, describing routes to Rameshwaram, Srisailam, and Kanchipuram, showing how the land is unified through divine presence. The Skand Purana uses narratives of divine events like Shiva's manifestations, goddesses' appearances, or demon vanquishing to explain the sanctity of spaces. These stories anchor abstract cosmological truths in real world locations. For example, Kritivasa, form of Shiva after slaying demons, is linked to tirthas near Himalayas. Goddess Sati's body parts falling across the land is tied to the Shaktipeeth network, many of which are referenced in the Skand Purana. The text uses natural landmarks like rivers, forests, and mountains, and directional cues like east west to help pilgrims spatially orient themselves. It shows a holistic spatial understanding where physical movement mirrors inner transformation. Many tirthas are positioned at confluences, mountain tops, or deep forests, each signifying a liminal zone where the mundane meets the sacred. The roots and narratives of the Skand Purana unite the subcontinent north to south, east to west through a network of sacred geographies. This fosters a pan Indic sense of cultural belonging. Pilgrimage acting as a thread that weaves together diverse communities and landscapes. The Skand Purana is like a profound geographical text in disguise, mapping not only land but sacred experiences also. Through these spatial narratives and pilgrimage routes, the earth is sacralized, pilgrimage becomes transformative, travel, geography, and spirituality become one. This Skand Purana bridges the grand scale of Indian cosmology with the lived realities of regional geographies. Rooted in a cosmic worldview, it presents Bharatvarsh as a divine terrain where celestial order mirrors terrestrial landscapes. On one hand, the Skand Purana describes the cosmic structure of the universe, featuring Mount Meru at the center, surrounded by concentric continents and oceans, as outlined in classical Indian cosmology. These descriptions serve as symbolic frameworks to understand space, time, and even spiritual hierarchy. Simultaneously, the text weaves this spiritual vision into region specific details, mapping sacred rivers, mountains, forests, and pilgrimage sites with mythological significance. From the holy confluences in the plains of North India to remote Himalayan shrines and temples in the Deccan, the Skand Purana localizes the cosmic, giving a spiritual map of the Indian subcontinent. The integration of the macrocosm or Brahman with the microcosm, local sacred geographies, illustrates how Indian cosmology was not abstract, but it was lived, walked, and worshipped across landscapes, making the Skand Purana a vital source for understanding how regional knowledge was shaped by cosmic insight. Now we will try to understand the role of Skand Purana in indigenous mapping traditions. The Skand Purana, one of the largest and most geographically rich Mahapuranas, plays a significant role in shaping India's indigenous mapping traditions. Unlike modern cartography based on physical measurements and coordinates, this text engages in cultural cartography, mapping the land through narratives, sacred places, pilgrimages, and mythic symbolism. The Skand Purana offers detailed descriptions of tirthas or sacred forts, kshetras or holy fields, and mahatmyas, glorification of places, which collectively construct a spiritual topography. These descriptions act as an indigenous method of marking and remembering space, not just physically but spiritually and ritually. Through stories of journeys to sites like Kashi, Kurukshetra, Kedarnath, and Pushkar, the text defines a network of itineraries that devotees were expected to traverse. These acted like mental maps, guiding people not through compass directions but through cultural and cosmological alignments. So, Skand Purana is not just an example of integration of cosmology with regions, it also acts as local geographies with cosmic elements like Mount Meru, the Ganga from heaven, and celestial constellations. This text reflects a mapping method that integrates astronomy, sacredness, and space, a key feature of Indian indigenous knowledge systems. The detailed regional narratives in these texts helped communities identify with their environment, sacralizing rivers, forests, hills, and lakes. This reinforced a sense of ecological stewardships and cultural memory where the land was not a neutral expanse but a sacred inheritance. The Skand Purana functions as an indigenous atlas of ancient India, not in geometric terms, but through ritual geographies, narrative mappings, and cosmic connections. It is a kind of testament to how geography in Indian tradition was deeply embodied experiential, and spiritual, like a living map passed down through memory, pilgrimage, and devotion. So, the Skand Purana vividly demonstrates how geography and spirituality were not distinct realms, but deeply intertwined in the worldview of ancient India. Land was not merely terrain, it was imbued with sacred meaning, where rivers, mountains, forests, and cities were woven into cosmological frameworks and devotional narratives. Through its elaborate descriptions of sacred landscapes, pilgrimage routes, and tirtha mandals, the Skand Purana reveals a sophisticated system of indigenous spatial knowledge, one that is deeply ecological, place based, and rooted in lived experiences of the divine in nature. It provides valuable insights into how ancient communities engaged in placemaking, revered natural features as sacred beings, and developed sustainable relationships with the land. Sites were chosen not only for their geographical suitability but for their alignment with cosmic rhythms, elements, and even ancestral memory. The most important thing is the Skand Purana encourages us to rethink geography not just as a science of space but as a cultural and ethical practice. In an age where environmental degradation is a pressing concern, this text offers a model for environmental stewardships based on reverence, responsibility, and relational understanding of nature. So, as we move forward with modern tools like GIS and satellite mapping, the Skand Purana invites us to expand our cartographic imaginations to include the stories, symbols, and spiritualities that have long shaped Indian landscapes. And embracing these cultural or spiritual geographies allows us to bridge tradition and technology. It also built futures that are not only smart and efficient, but also rooted, ethical, and sacred as well. Think about it. How can Skand Purana's descriptions help in heritage mapping today? Can ancient sacred geographies inform modern urban planning? I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you.